I woke up to the sound of something tearing, a mechanical roar outside that felt less like an early morning delivery and more like an invasion. When the glass panes in my sunroom started to rattle, and I mean really rattle, I knew it wasn't the garbage collection. It was something much heavier, much angrier. I stepped onto my porch, just worn jeans and a t-shirt, and there they were. 3 massive, gleaming construction trucks, each one branded with the pristine, pretentious logo of the Willow Creek Estates HOA, Veronica Thorne's personal army. They rolled right past the little stone markers my late wife Sarah and I placed 15 years ago, straight onto the edge of Lot 47B, my land, chewing up the rosemary border and the irrigation lines like they were cheap candy floss. No notice, no email, no polite knock on the door, just heavy diesel crushing everything in its path. My place, you see, sits on the fringe of Willow Creek, 2 acres we bought before the subdivision swallowed the whole county. A small house, a greenhouse, and a thriving garden where I still grew Sarah's heirloom tomatoes. That garden wasn't just dirt and plants. It was the last thing that felt right after everything else fell apart. I marched out, hands already balled into fists, and shouted over the engine noise. A foreman in reflective shades just shrugged, a dismissive flick of the wrist. "Whoa there, sir. Just clearing the path for the mandated community access corridor. Your HOA president, Mrs. Thorne, signed off on it." "Access corridor? On my deeded land?" "You're trespassing," I yelled, the sound weak against the roar of the grader that just gouged a 12-foot trench right where my prized basil patch used to be. The basil my daughter used to help me water when she was tiny. Gone. I stumbled back inside, grabbed the HOA directory, and dialed Veronica Thorne's number. She answered with that syrupy, rehearsed tone. "Veronica Thorne speaking. How may I direct your call?" My name, Daniel Miller, snapped the sweetness right out of her voice. "Your trucks are on my property, Veronica, and they just ripped out my irrigation." There was a pause, a long, cold, satisfied pause, and then that laugh, you know the one, the laugh that says, "I always win." "Actually, Mr. Miller, that strip is now part of the community easement. It was ratified last quarter. You should check your mailbox." "I checked the deed, Veronica. This is my property." "Well, then you must be misinterpreting the master plan overlay," she countered, slick as oil. "It was passed by quorum, Mr. Miller. A temporary inconvenience for long-term property value improvement." I hung up before I said something I couldn't unsay. The rage I felt wasn't the hot kind. It was the cold, strategic kind I hadn't felt since my last deployment. They wanted a fight? Fine. But they had no idea who they were pushing. I didn't waste time arguing with her hired help. I drove straight to the county registrar's office carrying the original yellow deed. Esther, the clerk, God bless her, pulled up the GIS overlay. We compared the maps, mine against the county's digital record. She looked up and smiled, the first genuine smile I'd seen all day. "Mr. Miller, Lot 47B is still entirely private property. No recorded easement, no zoning update. You own this land right up to that split oak tree." That was the vindication I needed. Back home, they were still digging. They were staking neon flags into my soil. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat in my busted greenhouse listening to the drip of broken PVC pipe and pulled out my old drafting kit, T-square, compass, blueprints from Kandahar. Veronica wanted to play games with lines on a map. I'd remind her who I was, a former combat engineer. I wasn't building a house or a shed. I was building a message, a perimeter designed to be non-permanent, just within legal spec and impossible to ignore. It would be a memorial wall, styled like a forward operating base. Steel, panels, motion lights, and a little surprise. It would be up by dawn. And when they saw it, they wouldn't just stop. They'd freeze. They came back the next morning, slower this time, maybe sensing a change in the atmosphere. I stood on my porch, watching a dump truck roll right over the last remnants of my lavender, the lavender Sarah loved, and something just snapped. Fuel. That was the fuel I needed. I didn't even flinch when the main backhoe digging near the boundary snagged on the irrigation main I'd repaired a decade ago and ripped it right out. Water shot 30 feet into the air, a glorious high-pressure geyser, and the ground beneath the backhoe instantly turned into a sucking mud pit. Within minutes, 3 of their trucks were hopelessly mired, sunk down to the axles. I actually laughed. It was the first honest sound I'd made in days. My garden had become their graveyard. Then Veronica arrived, striding across the newly formed swamp in those expensive, impractical Italian boots, face crimson. "This is obstruction, Miller. You are tampering with active development," she shrieked, peeling off her sunglasses like that was supposed to be intimidating. I just gestured toward you. The stuck machinery, the flooded trench. "Does it look like you're making progress, Veronica?" "Still trespassing, by the way. I confirmed it with the county. Over $10,000 in damages and counting." For a second I saw it. Not anger, but genuine fear. The fear of losing control. She masked it, of course. "You'll hear from my legal team," she hissed before slipping on her expensive heel and storming off. That afternoon I worked like a machine. The steel framework of the bastion went up. Motion-detecting floodlights were bolted on. And the centerpiece, the huge, beautiful American flag I carried in my rucksack for 2 tours, now flying high, not for war, but as a statement of sovereignty. I also called my old buddy, Miguel Torres, who worked zoning for the city. He checked the codes and told me about the obscure Veterans Property Memorial Clause. Perfect. As long as it was designated a memorial, the HOA had 0 jurisdiction. I sent my evidence package, the drone photos, the audio recordings of Veronica's threats, Miguel's zoning affidavit, to every city official, the county supervisor, and, importantly, a reporter at the Times. My phone exploded. By the next day, the structure was complete, crowned with a salvaged bronze eagle, wings spread wide, facing the HOA clubhouse. Mr. Harrison, the retired accountant, brought me a tray of lemonade. Mrs. Chen, who never spoke to anyone, told me her paralegal husband would review my filings for free. The neighborhood was done being silent. Veronica's final play was predictable. A lawsuit citing aesthetic uniformity and community disruption. I met her lawyers at the boundary line, handed them my counterclaim, the city's official document, affirming my private jurisdiction, the Veterans Memorial designation, all notarized. The lead lawyer's face fell when he saw the official seals. Veronica grabbed the papers, scanning them, her lips trembling. "This isn't valid," she snapped. I smiled calmly. "It's filed with the city, the county, and the Office of Veteran Affairs. Veronica, you'd have to override all 3. Good luck with that." A crowd of neighbors had gathered. When Veronica, desperate, tried to accuse me of intimidating residents, Mr. Harrison stepped forward. "No one here feels intimidated, Veronica. We feel safer now." A ripple of applause started, slow and steady, rising up from the quiet street. She flushed, realizing she was the outsider now. She stormed off, defeated. It wasn't over until the State Attorney General's office, prompted by the neighborhood FOIA investigation that uncovered her fraudulent deals with developers, launched a full audit of the HOA. The dominoes fell fast. Board members resigned, and 3 months later, Veronica Thorne sold her house. The moving truck came early on a Tuesday, and nobody, not one single person, waved goodbye. The city settled my liability claim. I planted new lavender next to the bastion, a reminder that life comes back. I considered taking the wall down, but I couldn't. It wasn't just mine anymore. It belongs to everyone who ever felt steamrolled, ignored, or silenced by someone who mistook a title for dominion over decency. So here's the question. When a community tyrant pushes you, where do you draw the line? Do you fight back with decency, or do you fight back with absolute, documented truth, even if it means destroying their entire empire? Let me know in the comments below. Did I go too far, or did I simply set a boundary that should never have been crossed?